Undisputed.
Welcome to Undisputed. We are live from Los Angeles. I'm Joy Taylor here with Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp. Good morning, guys.
Good morning, Joy. How are you? Good to see you.
Good morning, Skip.
You know, I got one thing to say about your man, LeBron James. We're going to talk about LeBron versus Phil here in a little bit. It's always something with LeBron, and I love it. I mean this. It's not contrived. It's just he lives in a force field that always creates issues and stories almost on a daily basis, and I appreciate that.
Well, Skip was complaining, Joy. You heard this. He was complaining earlier about his chair being lowered. It's not that his chair is lowered. It's that I've been chopping him down slowly but surely over the last 10 weeks.
Is that what's happening?
Not a lot.
He started out at 6'3". Now he's a meager 5'10".
Is that what those Cowboys predictions of yours have been doing? That's another way.
Joey.
Unfortunately, my chair is low, but here we go.
I think you guys both look great. Let's get started. Let's start in Dallas with the Cowboys. An emotional Tony Romo addressed the media yesterday for the first time since his back injury in August. Romo read from a prepared statement and didn't take any questions. Let's take a listen.
You see, football is a meritocracy. You aren't handed anything. You earn everything, every single day, over and over again. You have to prove it. That's the way that the NFL, that's the way that football works. A great example of this is Dak Prescott and what he's done. He's earned the right to be our quarterback. As hard as that is for me to say, he's earned that right. He's guided our team to an 8-1 record, and that's hard to do. If you think for a second that I don't want to be out there, then you've probably never felt the pure ecstasy of competing and winning. That hasn't left me. In fact, it may burn more now than ever. It's not always easy to watch. I think anybody who's been in this position understands that. But what is clear is that I was that kid once. Stepping in, having to prove yourself. I remember the feeling like it was yesterday. It really is an incredible time in your life. And if I remember one thing from back then, it's the people that helped me along when I was young. And if I can be that to Dak, you know, I've tried to be, and I will be going forward. I think you all know something magical is happening to our team. I'm not going to allow this situation to negatively affect Dak or this football team by becoming a constant distraction. I think Dak knows that I have his back, and I think I know that he has mine. Ultimately, it's about the team. It's what we've preached our entire lives.
Very emotional. Skip, what do you make of this?
Watched the entire 6 minutes, riveting television. I was touched by it. I thought it came straight from the heart. I respected and appreciated the fact that Tony Romo conceded the job to Dak Prescott. He blessed Dak Prescott. He said that he would have Dak's back and help him as much as Tony can conceivably help a fourth-round rookie quarterback. And in the end, I felt sympathy for Tony Romo, but only to a point, which I will explain in just a second. But I want to speak from the heart about the Tony Romo I have come to know from a distance. He's a good guy. He's gone through a very bad time, clearly. By all accounts, he has God in his heart. He's a good Christian man, good husband, good father. I respect the heck out of all that. And he has gone through a hellish period in which he thought he had his best team as a Dallas Cowboy quarterback. He thought he was poised to be the man and that Dallas would be, once again, his city as he returned from injury in the third preseason game. And as we all know, he lasted 3 plays. And then the doctors changed his prognosis from 3 to 4 weeks to 10 weeks. And so he was forced to sit or stand on the sideline and watch this kid from nowhere become the man on the team and take over the city of Dallas and Fort Worth. And it tore Tony apart, and it should have, and I feel for that. But here's the point Tony might not be able to grasp at this moment in his career at age 36. This is not personal on the part of Cowboy fans. I am one, and I'm going to speak just as a Cowboy fan. I've appreciated all that Tony Romo has done for this team. I appreciated the fact that he made a going away video for me when I left ESPN. And he mentioned in the video, I have not always been a supporter of Tony's because it took me a long time to come to believe in Tony. It wasn't until 2014 that I did. And obviously he wasn't there much last year in 2015. But I've told you from the start, from preseason, I have come more to believe in Dak Prescott as not only the future of the Cowboys, but as the present of the Cowboys. And Tony's going to have to understand that this is just, so to speak, business. This is fandom business. This is, we all just want to win. And unfortunately, at the expense of Tony Romo's stature in Dallas, Texas, we all want to win. And I respect him. I get that he still has a future somewhere else in this league. But I'm going to tell you what my fear is, and I'm going to stand by my guns on this. The reason I can't have all that much sympathy for Tony, I still believe with all my heart and soul that Dak Prescott is one bad rookie game away this Sunday. If they have a disaster at Jerry World against a suddenly resurgent Baltimore team with a tough front seven, I believe Tony Romo will return to being the starting quarterback the following Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, which was the last time he actually started a game. And this would be at Jerry World, this time against the arch rival Washington Redskins. I'm going to say it again. It was no small thing to me that this past Saturday, Tony Romo accompanied Jerry Jones to watch Jerry's grandson play football on Saturday while the team was flying, obviously, to Pittsburgh. And I'm assuming that then Tony had to ride with Jerry on his private jet to Pittsburgh. Tony not going to dress for the game, but was just going to be on the sideline. That's no small thing to me. That's how close these two are. And as you keep pointing out, and I have brought up many times on the show, just a week ago, Jerry Jones spoke about how he would have a regret if he did not win a Super Bowl with Tony Romo as his quarterback. Well, now it's silver platter handing it to Tony Romo. So I get where Tony is. I appreciate that he made that statement and tried not to be a distraction on an off day on Tuesday ahead of the Wednesday interviews that the starting quarterback will do. But in the end, I still think he has a future as the Dallas Cowboy quarterback.
Skip, I interviewed Tony Romo once when I was back at CBS, and interviewing him, after we had done the interview, he told me he could see why I had been successful playing. Because I was well organized, had the questions that I wanted to ask, and he told me I did a good job. And I thanked him, and that was the only interaction that I've ever had with Tony Romo. It took a lot of courage to do what he did. Because if you think about it, everybody has pride. Athletes have a little more pride. And the greater the athlete, the greater the pride he has. So for Tony Romo to go out in front of a national audience, although only the media was there and he took no questions, for him to go out there and concede that moving forward, Dak Prescott is the guy for this job, that took a lot. Sure. Skip, if you take Tony Romo's best season, 2014, which you say statistically is his best season.
Tremendous.
They had an 1,848-yard rusher in DeMarco Murray in the backfield. He was Offensive Player of the Year. Tony Romo led the league in QBR, a stat that you love so much. Even in that season, he never won 8 straight games. So currently, Dak Prescott is playing as good, if not better, in his rookie season than Tony Romo ever has in his career. So for Tony to come out there and say, you know what, because we hate to admit someone can do something better than we can. Okay, if that's Tom Brady, if that's Drew Brees, he can concede that. Skip, he's not the best quarterback on his team anymore. That's hard for him to swallow. Sure. That's hard for him to stomach. And he went out there and he did it. He says, I want to do this because I don't want to be a distraction. Skip, he already knew it was already a distraction because it kept going. Jerry would not endorse Dak as being a starter. And I'm going to get to Jerry now. See, Tony Romo shouldn't have had to do this. Normally, a head coach will give you a plan or a course of action in which the team is going to take. But because Jerry Jones was too cowardly, and I want to make sure I'm speaking abundantly clear, he was cowardly in his act, because here's the same owner that fired Jimmy Johnson, a two-time back-to-back winning Super Bowl coach, for being insubordinate, being disrespectful, Skip, and he couldn't summon up the courage to say, Tony, I love you, but Dak, moving forward, Dak Prescott is our starting quarterback. That's all he had to do. Skip, Jerry was betting against himself. Although he was winning, deep inside, he was kind of hoping that Dak would mess this up and he would get an opportunity to put Tony Romo back into the starting lineup. Why? Not only did Tony Romo deserve better than this, Dak Prescott deserved better than this. And we see, this is how we know, for those who don't know, that Jerry's calling all the shots and pulling all the strings. You never heard Jason Garrett say a word. Jason Garrett never said, Tony's coming back. In the last 3 or 4 weeks, never heard Jason Garrett mention a word. It was only Jerry commenting. Skip, a hot hand. Okay, so a great predictor of the future is past experience. See, Jerry has the knowledge of knowing that every time Tony Romo left the starting lineup, the Cowboys went to hell in a handbasket. He was expecting the exact same thing. And guess what happened opening day, Skip? They lost. And Jerry says, here we go again. So now he gets an opportunity. He's like, well, hey, when Tony Romo is healthy, he's going to be our quarterback. But a funny thing happened on the way to the market. Dak didn't trip and spill any of the eggs out of the basket. He went 1-1, 2-1, 3-1, 4-1. And Jerry should have stopped like, hold on, wait a minute. This is not a hot hand. This is not a coincidence. 5-1, 6-1, 7-1. And the fashion and the manner in which he's doing it, Skip, he's coming from behind. He gets the ball in overtime, and the Eagles do not see it. Touchdown. The Steelers go up in Heinz Field. Dak Prescott gets the ball. Boom, 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 boom. Touchdown. Game over. So this would have been it should have happened 3 or 4 weeks ago. But Sunday would have been the perfect time for Jerry to say, you know what, guys? I know what I said, but what I see with my own eyes, Dak is our starting quarterback moving forward. Because remember I told you, Skip, you can do all the analytics, all the numbers, because you take statistics and what happened and trends and all that. But a lot of what coaches do is gut. And Jerry's gut would not allow him, even though he sees it with his own eyes, would not allow him to make that decision and say, you know what? Dak Prescott is our starting quarterback. I commend Tony. Because when I first started here, I'm like, hold on. Dak doesn't need your approval. He's not playing for your approval. He doesn't need your validation to say he's this, this, and this. But the more I listen to him, and the more I can see his voice start to break, I realize he did this, not for him, but for the team. Because they needed closure. They needed to know. Because Jerry wouldn't provide that to them. It's sad that Jerry Jones, one of the most influential and powerful owners in the National Football League, could not bring himself. He was too chicken to bring himself to tell Tony Romo, Tony, you're not our starter anymore. And it's sad that it came to this.
I agree with everything you just said, except 2 words that you used to describe Jerry Jones. 2 words I have never, ever heard used to describe Jerry Jones: cowardly and chicken. And now we're going to have to turn the table here where I'm going to have to defend Jerry just on this count. Spent a lot of time around him. I've read a million stories about Jerry Jones, and I've never heard anybody accuse him of being a coward, because he is a plunger to a fault. He has courage of his convictions, even though his convictions can sometimes, often maybe, be wrong. But in this case, he would argue with you, if he were sitting here, that he was the opposite of cowardly, that his convictions tell him that Tony is the long-term answer here, that Dak has taken it about as far as Dak can take it. So he would tell you he was the opposite of cowardly, that he was actually courageous to stand by his convictions and not crumble under the public pressure to give in and bless Dak as the now and future starter and award the team completely to Dak, because he would tell you that, no, I don't buy into the kid just yet. And remember, history will tell you that the kid's going to struggle at some point, maybe this Sunday. So he's kept his option barely open to go back to Tony Romo, because in his heart of hearts, Jerry Jones believes that the player who can take them to the promised land this year is not Dak Prescott, that it's Tony Romo. So I don't like the cowardly. I agreed with your premise, everything you just said, but it's the opposite of cowardly. You can say it's wrong-headed conviction, but it is bold conviction now.
Let me ask you a question. Did he think Jimmy Johnson had taken the Cowboys as far as they can go? No.
Yeah, yes, he did.
Skip.
He thought it was about to unravel because Jimmy had a history of unraveling after 3 or 4 or 5 years. Like he needs to move on. He needs to start over. And plus, I'm going to defend Jerry on this one because I wrote a book about it. Jimmy had gotten to the point where he was trying to blow it up, where the success was going north so quickly that Jimmy was starting to sort of crumble under the pressure of keeping up with building the dynasty. And it was Jerry's take that Jimmy was trying to blow up their relationship because he started to insult him in front of the front office workers and assistant coaches constantly, just ridicule Jerry in front of the employees. And after a while, I don't blame Jerry for saying, I just can't take this anymore. And I think you won out because you're sick of me and sick of it. Like you've taken it to the mountaintop of 2 in a row and you're afraid to try for 3 in a row. And he said, you know what? You're out because there are 100 coaches who could take us one more step. And he picked the 101st coach on the list, Barry Switzer, I think, and proved that 2 years later, they did win another championship without Jimmy. Again, it was some of Jimmy's players, some of Jerry's players that he picked.
But see, therein lies the problem.
Yeah.
Because, see, Jerry envied the fact that Jimmy was getting all the credit.
There was a battle of that.
He wanted some of that credit.
Sure.
And Jimmy said, hold on, wait a minute. You really knew nothing about football. You played on the Arkansas team. You were the starting guard. Mm-hmm. But you bought a team and had no idea how the inner workings of a team work.
Correct. Because remember, Jimmy started in Picayune, Mississippi as an assistant high school coach.
Yes.
And paid his dues all the way up the ladder. Pittsburgh, Oklahoma State, the line, University of Miami. So he had paid dues to get to the NFL.
Think about this. So let's take it in today's terms. Mr. Kraft has been to 7 Super Bowls. He's won 4 with Coach Belichick. Mm-hmm. How many times have we heard Coach Mr. Kraft try to get any of the credit, although all the credit goes to Tom Brady and Mr. Belichick, Coach Belichick?
Yeah, but Bob Kraft didn't play football and doesn't pretend to know anything deeply about the X's and O's of football. And Jerry does.
Yeah, but Skip, he didn't know as much then as he knows now. Mm-hmm. Jimmy put this thing together.
Sure.
And because Jerry wanted some of the credit because too much of the light was shining on Jimmy Johnson,
there was a quote that year, that summer before he fired Jimmy,
yes,
to Vanity Fair. Jerry Jones said, I could coach the you-know-what out of this team. That's what he thought. So, yeah, he's saying, I'm on equal footing with you.
Exactly.
You can't ridicule me. You can't disrespect me in front of the assistant coaches and our employees like that.
2 Super Bowls back to back.
Yeah.
And he had no problem letting Jimmy Johnson go. None whatsoever.
Well, he did it out of anger. I mean, he plunged. I'm just saying, that was the opposite of cowardly. That was like big guts, man.
You make my point even more now because he fired that guy with no problem whatsoever.
So he'll go back to Tony Romo like that, and he won't look twice.
Skip, you're making my argument for me.
Well, don't call him a coward, though. It's
what is he?
That.
How is he?
Say he's a wrong-headed plunger,
Skip, coward means that you're afraid or you're unwilling to make a decision. You don't have to be everything you have to do. You don't have to be, okay, he was cowardly in this situation. How about that? Is that better?
No, He's already made his decision in his heart of hearts. He needs Tony back at the helm.
And I made my decision. In my heart of hearts, Jerry Jones was cowardly in not being able to name Dak Prescott after all he had done.
He was wrong, but it's not cowardly. It's what he believes. It's his conviction.
So what about my conviction?
Well, that's fine, but you can't call Jerry a coward. You can say he's wrong.
I said this decision is cowardly. the decision. Why can't you see it?
I don't. I'm sorry. I don't at all. It's the opposite of that.
You know
I'll say it again.
I'm not trying to, you know what? I'm not, and I fault myself because I'm not trying to convince you. I'm talking to you, but I'm not really talking to you. Jerry Jones was cowardly in his conviction. Jerry Jones fired Jimmy Johnson, who won 2 Super Bowls, but he did not have the courage to tell Tony Romo, Tony, you're not the starter anymore. Dak Prescott is our starter moving forward. Tony Romo deserved better than that. If he loved Tony so much for what Tony had done for that franchise, he deserved better. He deserved clarity. It's not, oh, we're gonna go game to game. We're gonna let it play itself out. Dak Prescott 1,000,000% deserved better because
I agree with that, but Jerry does not agree with that.
So hold on. He cannot agree with that, but I have to agree with everything he does?
No, but you can't call him a coward for having the wrong idea.
I said his decision was cowardly, Skip. I'm not backing up that statement. That was a chicken job, boo-boo job that he tried to do. All he had to do was 3 weeks ago make a decision. Either Tony Romo's getting the job back or Dak Prescott has the job. Not always going game to game. He's hoping. Skip, since you know him so well, you know deep down he was hoping Dak messed this thing up so Tony Romo could get back.
Okay, but that's not cowardly. That's just his gut feeling that he needs the Pro Bowl quarterback to win the Super Bowl.
Well, so maybe it's stubborn is a better word to describe it.
No, I said it was a cowardly act, and it still is a cowardly act.
Well, I have the utmost respect for Tony Romo for getting up there and saying that, because you could tell that he was obviously very emotional and that he was doing it for the team. But I do agree. If Dak has one bad game, he's back out there. But we will watch and find out. Coming up, LeBron had a strong response to Phil Jackson yesterday over the use of the word posse. We'll react next.